Ethan stood frozen in the luxury penthouse, staring at the contract in his trembling hands. The blonde woman across from him crossed her legs and smiled. $1 million, Ethan. All I'm asking is 1 year of your life. He looked down at his daughter's medical bills scattered on his kitchen table that morning. The number at the bottom made his stomach turn. He had 3 days before they lost everything. Why me? He whispered. Isabella's blue eyes locked onto his. Because you're desperate, and desperate men don't ask questions. But what Ethan didn't know was that this contract would change everything he thought he knew about love, trust, and the terrifying secrets wealthy people keep hidden. The coffee shop smelled like burned espresso and broken dreams. Ethan wiped down the counter for the 100th time that morning, his hands moving automatically while his mind raced through impossible calculations. Rent was due in 5 days. Lily's medical bills were stacking up like a tower ready to collapse, and his ex-wife? She had made it clear she wanted nothing to do with their daughter's illness. "Daddy makes enough money," she had said before walking out. "Figure it out." But Daddy did not make enough money. Daddy made $9 an hour plus tips that barely covered gas. He worked at the coffee shop in the mornings, delivered food in the afternoons, and stocked shelves at a grocery store at night. Sleep was a luxury he could not afford, but even working himself to the bone, the numbers did not add up. They never added up. Lily was getting worse. The doctors said she needed a new treatment, one that insurance would not cover. $30,000. It might as well have been 30 million. Ethan had tried everything. Loans, credit cards, fundraisers that barely made $1,000. He was drowning and nobody was throwing him a rope. The bell above the door chimed. Ethan looked up, ready to paste on his. Customer service smile, but the words died in his throat. She was stunning. Not in the way people are pretty, but in the way art in museums makes you feel small. Long blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders in perfect waves that caught the morning light. She wore blue jean shorts despite the autumn chill outside, and a black dress shirt that probably cost more than Ethan's car. The shirt was perfectly tailored, showing she belonged to a different world entirely. Her heels clicked against the worn linoleum like a countdown timer. "Black coffee," she said. Her voice was silk wrapped around steel. "And your attention for 5 minutes." Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry, I'm buying your attention." 5 minutes. She placed a $100 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." His hands shook as he poured the coffee. Rich people came through sometimes, but they never talked to him. They ordered, they paid with cards, they left. They certainly did not buy his time like he was something valuable. She took the coffee without drinking it. "Your name is Ethan. You have a 6-year-old daughter named Lily. She has leukemia. Your ex-wife left 8 months ago. You work 3 jobs and you're still drowning." Isabella paused. "Am I wrong about anything?" The blood drained from Ethan's face. "Who are you? How do you know all that?" "Someone who can solve all your problems." She slid a business card across the counter, heavy card stock, embossed letters. "My name is Isabella Morno. I'm the CEO of Morno Enterprises, and I have a proposition for you." "I don't understand." "Meet me tonight, 9 p.m. The address is on the card." She picked up her coffee and turned to leave. At the door, she looked back. "Oh, and Ethan, bring an open mind. You're going to need it." Ethan stared at the card for the rest of his shift. Isabella Morno. He Googled her during his break. Billionaire, 32 years old. Inherited her father's tech empire 2 years ago. Forbes called her ruthless. Business Insider called her brilliant. Everyone called her untouchable. And she knew everything about him. The address led to a penthouse that made Ethan feel like he had stepped into a different universe. The building had a doorman who looked at him like he was dirt on an expensive shoe. The elevator required a key card. Everything smelled like money and power. The penthouse itself was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. Everything was white marble and sharp edges. Modern art hung on walls. A grand piano sat in the corner, glossy and untouched. Isabella sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than his yearly salary, legs crossed, watching him like a scientist studying a specimen. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Ethan sat. His jeans felt dirty against the pristine furniture. He was hyper-aware of every stain, every worn thread. "I need a husband," Isabella said simply, "for 1 year. A contract marriage. In exchange, I'll pay you $1 million and cover all your daughter's medical expenses. Immediately, every treatment, every medication, every hospital bill, gone." The room spun. "What? You heard me." She leaned forward. Her blue eyes were intense, calculating. My father's will stipulates that I must be married to inherit full control of the company. He didn't trust single women, apparently. Thought we were too emotional. Her laugh was bitter. I need someone who won't fall in love. With me, won't try to take my money and will disappear quietly when the year is up. You need money desperately enough that you won't refuse. It's a perfect arrangement. This is insane. This is business. Isabella pulled out a thick folder. The contract must have been 50 pages. The contract is comprehensive. We'll live together, attend events together, convince the board and my father's lawyers that we're genuinely married, but behind closed doors we're strangers. Separate bedrooms? No. Emotional entanglement. No questions about my personal life. You do your job, I do mine, and in 1 year we both get what we need. Ethan's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. The legal language was dense, complicated, but the numbers were clear. $1 million plus medical coverage with no cap, plus a living allowance, plus a trust fund for Lily's education. Why would you trust me? Because I had you investigated. She pulled out another folder, this one even thicker. Photos of him with Lily at the hospital, records of his work history, even his high school transcripts. Every part of his life documented and analyzed. You're reliable, honest to a fault. You've never even gotten a speeding ticket. You don't drink, don't do drugs, never been arrested. And most importantly, you love your daughter more than anything. Men like you don't break contracts when their child's life depends on it. It felt like drowning and being offered air at the same time. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. Isabella stood. She was tall, probably 5'9" without the heels. But Ethan, Lily's next treatment is scheduled in 3 days, and your insurance just denied the claim. I know because I have contacts at the hospital. You don't have time to think. You have time to sign. How do I know you're not some kind of psychopath? Isabella smiled, and it did not reach her. Eyes, you don't, but psychopaths don't usually offer to save dying children. They also don't usually offer $1 million, so you have a choice. Gamble on me or watch your daughter die because you were too proud to accept help. Your call. Ethan did not sleep that night. He sat in Lily's room, watching her small chest rise and fall, the port for her IV clearly visible under her princess pajamas. She looked so small in the hospital bed they had rented, so fragile. How had life become this? Impossible. She woke up around 3 in the morning, groggy from pain medication. Daddy, I'm here, baby. Am I going to die? His heart shattered. No, never, I promise. Promise, promise. But he did not know how he would keep that promise. Not until his phone buzzed, a text from Isabella. The offer stands, save her. He signed the contract at dawn. The wedding was quick and cold, a judge's office. 2 witnesses Isabella hired from somewhere. She wore white, a simple designer dress. That probably cost $10,000, but it felt more like armor than a dress. Ethan wore the one suit he owned, the one from his father's funeral 5 years ago. It was tight in the shoulders now. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Isabella offered her cheek. The kiss felt like signing away his soul. "Welcome to your new life," she whispered. "Don't disappoint me." The penthouse became his new reality. Lily loved it at first. Her own room with a bathroom bigger than their old apartment, a TV on the wall. Toys Isabella had ordered still in their boxes. Isabella had hired a full-time nurse, a kind woman named Margaret who had 30 years of experience. She had also arranged for the best oncologist in the state, Dr. Chen, who started treatment immediately. Ethan watched his daughter laugh for the first time in months, and he felt the chain around his heart tighten. He had sold himself, but maybe that was okay if it meant Lily lived. But Isabella was a ghost in her. Own home she left before he woke up, returned after he slept. They communicated through notes on the kitchen counter. Event Thursday 7 p.m. Wear the tux in your closet. Charity gala Saturday, smile more. You looked miserable in the photos last time. Board dinner Monday, we need to look in love, practice. The only time they interacted was at public events, and there she transformed completely. Her hand would slip into his, warm and confident. She would laugh at his awkward jokes like he was the funniest man alive. She would gaze at him like he hung the stars. She would touch his face, his shoulder, his hand. The press called them the perfect couple. The board approved. Her father's lawyers nodded in satisfaction. Then they would return to the penthouse and she would disappear to her wing of the apartment. The mask would drop. The stranger would return. She would not even say goodnight. Weeks passed like this. Ethan learned her patterns. Coffee at 6 a.m., always black, always. Black, always in the same mug. She worked until midnight most nights, her office door closed, the light visible underneath. She never had friends over. never took personal calls. Once he heard her crying through the walls late at night, but when he knocked, the sound stopped immediately. "I'm fine," she called out. "Mind your business." But Ethan had never been good at minding his business. His mother used to say it would get him in trouble someday. Maybe this was that someday. The break came during a thunderstorm 3 months into the marriage. Ethan was in the kitchen making Lily's favorite mac and cheese when Isabella stumbled through the door, soaked and shaking. Her perfect blonde hair was plastered to her face. Her makeup ran in black streaks down her cheeks. She looked destroyed, inhuman, vulnerable in a way he had never seen. "Isabella, don't," she held up a hand. "Just don't." But she swayed on her feet and Ethan caught her before she fell. She was freezing, shaking like she had hypothermia. He wrapped her in a blanket and made her tea, and for once she did not fight him. She just sat at the kitchen counter, staring at nothing. "My father," she finally whispered. "Today would have been his birthday." Ethan sat quietly, letting her talk. "Everyone thinks I'm cold because I'm ambitious, because I wanted the company." Her laugh was hollow, broken. "But I loved him. He was everything to me. He taught me about business, about life, about being strong. And then he died and left that stupid clause in his will, like even death couldn't stop him from controlling my life. Like he didn't trust me to run his company without a man beside me. Why didn't you tell the lawyers the truth? Fight it because he built that company from nothing. Started in a garage with an idea and turned it into an empire. Because 3,000 families depend on those jobs. Because if I fight and lose, it all goes to my Uncle Marcus, who'll sell it for parts within a year. He doesn't care about the legacy, just the money." She looked at Ethan, really looked at him for the first time since the wedding. "I'm not the villain here. I'm just trying to save what he built. I'm trying to honor him." Something shifted in that moment. The stranger became human. The Ice Queen became a woman who missed her father. After that night, things changed. Isabella started eating breakfast with them. She would ask Lily about her favorite cartoons. She would laugh at Ethan's terrible cooking, actually laugh, not the fake laugh she used at events. She started coming home earlier. Slowly, the walls came down brick by brick. Ethan learned things about her. She played piano but had not touched one since her father died. She was terrified of birds because one attacked her at a park when she was 5. She donated anonymously to children's hospitals because she had spent 6 months in one as a teenager after a car accident that killed her mother. "I was alone," she admitted one night over wine. They were sitting on the balcony, the city spread out below them. "My mother died instantly. My father was building his empire, too busy to visit much. The nurses were kind, but they weren't family. I swore I'd never let another kid feel that alone. That's how I found you, actually, through one of my hospital charities. They mentioned a single father working 3 jobs to save his daughter. I had to meet you. You could have just donated the money. I needed a husband," Isabella replied. "But I'm glad it was you." Month 6 arrived like a countdown, halfway through the contract. Ethan tried not to think about the end, about going back to his old life. Because somewhere between the public appearances and the private breakfasts, between the charity galas and the late-night conversations on the balcony, he had fallen completely in love with his fake wife. And he was terrified she did not feel the same. The real complications started when Isabella's Uncle Marcus challenged the marriage. He hired private investigators to prove it was fake. Suddenly, cameras were everywhere. People were watching. Ethan and Isabella needed to share a bedroom to look convincing. Needed to be careful at all times. The separate wings of the apartment were no longer safe. "We can handle this," Isabella said, but her voice shook for the first time since that rainy night. That night they lay in the dark on opposite sides of her massive bed. The space between them like an ocean. Ethan could hear her breathing, could feel the warmth of her presence. It was torture. "Ethan," her voice was small in the darkness. "Yeah, what happens when this is over?" His heart stopped. "What do you mean? When the year ends? When you get your money and I get my company? What happens to us?" "The contract says we divorce quietly. I disappear, you move on." Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. "Then what if I don't want that?" Ethan sat up, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. "What?" Isabella turned to face him, and in the moonlight streaming through the windows, he could see tears on her face. Real tears. "What if I fell in love with you? What if this stopped being fake 6 months ago and I was too scared to say anything because I thought you'd think I was manipulating you?" He kissed her then. Soft and desperate and terrifying. She tasted like tears and hope and everything he had ever wanted. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "I love you so much it scares me. I think I loved you from that night in the rain when you finally let me see the real you." "The contract? Forget the contract." but they could not forget the contract. Because 2 weeks later, Isabella's uncle found something buried in her father's will. A clause nobody had noticed. If she divorced within 3 years of marriage, she would lose everything. The company, the money, the legacy, all of it. "We're trapped," Isabella said, staring at the lawyer's letter with shaking hands. "If we stay together, you're bound to me by a lie that became real. If we separate, I lose everything my father built. Everything I've worked for." "So we stay together," Ethan said simply. "You don't understand. You'd be giving up your freedom, your chance to choose this for real, your chance at a marriage that started honestly." Ethan took her hands in his. They were cold. "You are my real choice. You and Lily. This stopped being about money or contracts the moment you sat on the floor and braided my daughter's hair while she cried about losing hers to chemo. The moment you held me at 3 a.m. while I broke down about being a failure as a father. The moment you became the person I can't imagine living without. But the money, keep it, donate it, I don't care." He kissed her forehead. "I just want you, I want this. Life, I want to wake up next to you and argue about what to watch on TV and hold you when you miss your father. I want real, and this is real, we're real." Isabella laughed through her tears. "You're insane." "Probably," he smiled. "But I'm your kind of insane." They burned the contract on their 1-year anniversary, stood in the penthouse fireplace and watched it turn to ash, all those careful clauses and legal protections dissolving into nothing but smoke. "New contract," Isabella said, pulling out a single sheet of paper. "Written by me, no lawyers, no loopholes, no expiration date." Ethan read it and laughed and cried at the same time. It said simply, "We promise to love each other, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, even when we're scared, even when the world doesn't understand, for as long as we both shall live." Signed, 2 idiots who fell in love accidentally on purpose. "It's not legally binding," he pointed out. "It's the only contract that matters." Lily was declared cancer-free by month 18. She stood in Isabella's office one afternoon, spinning in the CEO chair, declaring she would run the company someday. Isabella watched her with so much love in her eyes that Ethan's heart hurt. "We made something good," Isabella whispered. "Didn't we? We made everything." 5 years later, Ethan stood in the same coffee shop where it all started, but now he owned it. Isabella had bought it for him as an anniversary gift. "Everyone deserves to own their dreams," she had said. The bell chimed. A young woman walked in, her hands shaking, desperation clear in her red-rimmed eyes. "Can I help you?" Ethan asked. She placed a crumpled $5 bill on the counter. "I need coffee. And maybe," she swallowed hard, "maybe a miracle." Ethan smiled, poured the coffee, placed a business card on the counter, Isabella's card. "Sometimes miracles find you when you least expect them, but they always cost something. The question is whether you're brave enough to pay the price." She looked at the card, back at him. "How do you know it's worth it?" "Because someone once told me the same thing, and it saved my life. It gave me everything." The woman took the card, and Ethan watched her go, knowing that somewhere across town, Isabella was in a board meeting building her empire, Lily was at school planning to take over that empire someday, and he was exactly where he belonged. Sometimes the best contracts are the ones you break. Sometimes the scariest proposals lead to the greatest love stories. And sometimes you have to sell yourself to find out who you really are. All you have to do is be brave enough to sign your name and trust that the universe knows what it's doing. Even when the contract seems insane.